Ethan Parker woke up that morning with more nerves than sleep in his eyes. He'd spent the whole night ironing his one decent dress shirt and rehearsing answers to potential interview questions until he'd nearly lost his voice. This was it. His chance to finally get back on his feet after nearly a year of juggling dead-end gigs and fighting to pay rent on time. He looked around his cramped studio apartment. The peeling wallpaper, the flickering kitchen light he never had time to fix, and whispered to himself, "Today changes everything." He poured weak coffee into a chipped mug, forced down half a stale bagel, then carefully placed his resume folder inside a battered old briefcase that had belonged to his father. When he stepped outside, the crisp air hit his face like a splash of ice water. He took a deep breath and glanced at his watch. He had exactly 45 minutes to catch the bus, get across town, and walk into that high-rise lobby like a man who deserved a second chance. The city was waking up around him, distant sirens, buses groaning to life, shop owners pulling up metal shutters. Ethan kept his head down and focused on his breathing, repeating interview answers in his head like a prayer. He reached the bus stop with 5 minutes to spare. As he waited, he noticed a few other commuters, all with earbuds in, staring at their phones, the morning routine for people who didn't have the luxury of private cars or taxis. When the bus finally arrived, Ethan grabbed a seat near the front, pressing his folder tight against his chest. He glanced out the window at passing traffic and tried to ignore the voice in his head, telling him that one little thing could go wrong. The bus could break down. There could be an accident. The interviewer could cancel. He forced the worry down. Just get there. That's all you have to do. But halfway through the route, the bus jerked to a stop behind a line of honking cars. Ethan leaned forward, trying to see past the other passengers. Up ahead, a black luxury SUV was stuck at an awkward angle, blocking 2 lanes. Drivers leaned out of windows, shouting curses. The bus driver muttered under his breath about how they'd be stuck there for who knew how long. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He checked his watch. 20 minutes left. But if they didn't move soon, he'd be late. He looked around the bus. No one seemed ready to do anything. The driver just drummed his fingers on the wheel. Ethan's knee bounced as he glanced back at the SUV. He stood up and rang the stop bell. The driver barely looked at him as he stepped off the bus and into the crisp morning air. He hurried down the line of cars, ignoring a few annoyed honks when he stepped into the street. When he reached the SUV, he saw a well-dressed woman pacing beside it, phone pressed to her ear. She looked polished, important, clearly not used to being stranded in traffic. Ethan approached slowly, clearing his throat. "Excuse me, ma'am, is everything okay?" he asked. She looked up surprised, her breath visible in the morning chill. "It just stopped. I don't know what's wrong. The tow truck says it'll be an hour and I've got a meeting in 15 minutes. Ethan peered through the cracked hood and saw a loose cable hanging near the battery. He pointed at it, then at the keys in her hand. "May I? I used to help my dad with his truck. Maybe I can get you out of the road at least." The woman hesitated, then stepped back. Ethan rolled up his sleeves and worked his fingers under the hood, careful not to brush his shirt against the greasy metal. He twisted the cable back into place, checked the connection, then wiped his hands on his pants. "Try it now," he said. She climbed in, turned the key, and the engine came alive with a low rumble. The relief on her face was instant. Ethan felt his shoulders drop too, but when he glanced at his watch again, the relief faded. He'd never make it across town in time now. She stepped out, eyes wide with gratitude. "How can I thank you? Please let me give you something." Ethan shook his head. "It's fine, just glad you're okay." He gave her a polite smile and picked up his briefcase. He felt the cold wind cut deeper now that his adrenaline had faded. He was missing the interview, the one chance he'd needed so badly. He turned away from the now-running SUV, trying to convince himself that sometimes doing the right thing was worth more than any job. But as he walked back toward the bus stop, shoulders heavy, he couldn't help but wonder if that was really true. Ethan stood under the rusted bus shelter, the cold wind cutting through his thin shirt as he replayed everything in his mind. He should have stayed on that bus. He should have minded his own business. But deep down, he knew he couldn't have. That woman would still be stranded, blocking traffic, probably yelling at some poor tow driver while she missed her meeting. He pulled his phone from his pocket. No new messages. He'd missed the interview by at least 20 minutes by now. The company was strict about punctuality. No second chances for someone like him. Ethan's shoulders slumped as the next bus rumbled up to the stop. He climbed on board, ignoring the driver's bored stare, and settled into a seat at the back, his mind miles away. The ride home felt like a slow slide into defeat. He stared at his reflection in the scratched window, his tie loosened now, his hair blown wild by the wind. The folded resume in his briefcase felt heavier than bricks on his knees. He thought about how he'd tell his landlord that rent would be late again, how he'd break the news to his sister who had been rooting for him so hard. He hated the idea of seeing that hope fade from her eyes. When the bus finally pulled onto his street, Ethan stepped out into the fading afternoon light. He trudged up the cracked sidewalk, shoulders hunched against the wind. As he neared his building, he caught a glimpse of a sleek black SUV parked at the curb. The same one from earlier? He blinked, sure he was imagining it. But then the window rolled down, and there she was, the woman from the road, perfectly poised even in the battered city neighborhood. She stepped out, heels clicking on the broken pavement, her tailored coat fluttering in the breeze. "Mr. Parker," she called out, her voice cutting through the street noise. Ethan froze, the keys to his building halfway out of his pocket. "Yes, ma'am," he said, still unsure what to call her. She smiled, stepping closer. "I owe you an apology and an introduction. I'm Elizabeth Harris, CEO of Harrington Automotive." She held out a perfectly manicured hand. Ethan hesitated, then shook it, feeling the warmth of her grip. "I didn't get your name earlier. I wanted to find you before you disappeared forever," she said, her eyes scanning the old building behind him. "I felt terrible when I realized you were probably late because you helped me." Ethan shrugged, trying to hide the sting in his chest. "It's fine. I'm glad I could help. Hope your meeting went well." She gave a small laugh, then motioned to the SUV. "It didn't, because instead of going to my meeting, I spent the last hour digging through my company's candidate list, and I saw your name. You were supposed to interview with us today, weren't you?" His breath caught in his throat. "Yes, ma'am, I guess I missed my shot." Elizabeth shook her head firmly. "No, Mr. Parker, you just proved you're exactly the kind of person I want in my company. Someone who does the right thing when no one's watching. Someone who doesn't think twice about helping a stranger." She reached into her coat pocket and handed him a crisp business card. "Come by the office tomorrow morning. No interview. You're hired. I want people like you on my team." Ethan stared at the card in his palm, the gold lettering shimmering under the streetlight. He looked back at her, trying to find words that wouldn't choke him up. "Are you serious?" Elizabeth smiled wider. "Dead serious. I don't make jokes about good people. Besides, I could use someone who can fix more than just cars. I think you'll fit right in." Before he could respond, she was already stepping back toward her SUV. "See you at 8 sharp, Mr. Parker." Ethan watched her drive away, the taillights fading into the city dusk. He turned the card over in his hand, again and again, the weight of failure lifting from his shoulders with every heartbeat. He looked up at his apartment, the cracked paint, the flickering porch light, and for the first time in months he let himself believe that maybe tomorrow really could be different. And as he pushed open the door to his building, he whispered to himself with a tired smile, "Sometimes helping a stranger is the interview."